I know you are an evangelist for AI, you're an evangelist for the future and how the future looks bright, and you're excited about the future, which we're going to get into.
Yeah.
But first, I really want to step way back into helping us understand a little bit more of like who you had to become to get excited about things like this and your journey early on. So take me back to your childhood, kind of where were you born, wwhere were you raised, and what were you like?
This is great.
Wow.
But born in Rapid City, South Dakota. My mom's from Thailand, so we had to move to Thailand right after she graduated from college. So 4 years in Thailand, 4 years in Indonesia, 4 years in the Netherlands, 4 years in Louisiana, which is like its own country sometimes, So, but yeah, just all over the world, all different cultures, and I got to see the world from this beautiful perspective, across cultures. Yeah.
You mentioned your mama's from Thailand, but can you tell me a little bit about the rest of your family?
So you mean on...
Yeah, brothers, sisters.
Brothers and sisters. I got one sister who's out in LA now. She was born in Thailand. My grandfather, Pearl Harbor survivor on the U.S. side. My grandfather in Thailand was a railroad conductor on the Thai Railroad. I have 3 boys now. My wife is from Indiana. So yeah, we have, and I've got one of my dad's brothers is in Japan now. So we love the world. We love global culture, and we're all over the place.
Now, you mentioned that you did a lot of traveling, and you spent a few years in different countries. You alluded to, but what were some of the main reasons that you did that?
My dad was in the oil business. Okay. So, he traveled around the world, and there was I think at the time, oil was big and there was a shortage of geologists. So he went, and every 4 years, he would, they'd give him a list of 4 countries, and it was kind of like the Army brat life. We were called oil brats. So we were just jumping around to different countries every 4 years.
And you mentioned geologist, so that was his occupation.
Yeah.
And was he in the same kind of business or company that he worked for that entire period of time, or were there different businesses that caused him to move?
Yeah, he was. He worked for Unocal, which later got bought by Chevron. So that was. We've had a couple of discussions about that because he's kind of the older school and say, hey, you get your master's degree and you stick with your one company for your whole life, right? And I was bouncing around different companies, trying different things. And really, I think it's part of my background is I wanted to see new things, try new things. So I was trying different companies and jumping around. Yeah.
Interesting. That's what I'm trying to understand and unpack is like, based on the way that you grew up and some of the beliefs that were instilled in you when you were young, how that impacted your, future career and your future self, which we'll dive into. And through your travels and through your experience with your family, you got to, you like you said, experience different cultures. What were some of those that were early on? Let's say, before like middle school age, what were some of them that you just vividly kind of pop out into your mind as these are things that shaped my future?
Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Thailand. Indonesia was fascinating. Thailand's Buddhist country, right? And Indonesia is 4th largest country in the world, and it's a Muslim country, right? But you go to different countries and you experience, and the Netherlands, I think not very religious right now, right? So it was just interesting to jump from one country to another and see like, you go to Thailand, it's 99% Buddhist, and you're like, wow, and you come to the U.S. or, like Italy is all Catholic, right? Or Vietnam or something. So that was one thing, was to jump from country to country and see a social construct like religion and see a whole country change, right? Also food styles, like Southeast Asia, you go to Thailand and the food's like very tasteful. Everything's different. You go to Indonesia, just a couple islands over, and the food, just different flavors, different styles of cooking. You go to the Netherlands, different styles of cooking, right? So I think seeing how different communities and cultures adopt different things like religion and food, and that's really shaped who I am today. Is that diversity in ideas and crafts and art and everything. So
it shaped it. Does it make you curious about different things in different areas? Like, hey, because you didn't always live in the same area with the same types of beliefs and the same cultures around you, you understood that, in travel, that in different locations you experience different religions and different cultures. Did that make you even more curious to explore new places?
Yeah, you see the world kind of from a distance, right? And you go into a culture and you learn that, the language is going to be different, the food's going to taste different, their values, culture is going to be different, their art, even how things look, they're going to have different values. So you go into every place kind of with that understanding. It's like everything about me is going to potentially, there's a core who you are, and you kind of reflect on who you are, but you go into different places with an understanding that things are going to be different here. And you may have to adapt some things and change and learn new things. Yeah.
And you're talking a lot about the positives of travel, which and being involved in the different cultures. I'm sure part of it was tough too. Can you think of some things that were difficult during those times growing up?
Well, as a kid, right, you go into a new culture, you got to learn new things, make new friends, give up all your friends. You're like, wow, I have an identity, and you feel like community. And then 4 years later, you're like, why are my parents doing this to me? And when you're young, you don't realize this is going to shape you, and you're like, you just get upset. You're like, why are my parents putting me through this? Why did they do this? So I think it was hard, giving up your identity, changing your identity, giving up your friends. Yeah, I think it was tough growing up. So it's not always positive. I'm not sure it's for everybody, right, to go through that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're already alluding to some of the things that we're going to piece together through this conversation, and it's shaped you brought up, right? It's turned you into the unique person that you are today, and your unique look on the world, and which has led to your version of success too, which is exciting. Now, you mentioned the different cultures you've had the opportunity to get involved with, your travels. Tell me a little bit about after high school. Did you end up going to college? Did you end up taking that route, or what was your journey at that point in life?
Yeah, I loved art, wanted to be an architect, I guess, and applied to a bunch of schools as an architect. Applied to one as an engineer, but they didn't have an architecture program, so went into civil engineering, switched over to electrical because I loved electronics, and then got out a bachelor's with electrical engineering degree and worked at Delphi Automotive in Kokomo, Indiana, but then had an itch, and because of just the world and the situation at the time, I think we were in the 2008 slump. Went back to school, got my MBA, my business degree, and suffered. I mean, to go from engineering to the business, where engineering is black and white, and then business is kind of fuzzy, and I was like, HR and sales, what is all this fuzzy stuff, and I really struggled with that, but I finished, and I'm glad I did. It shaped me too, the suffering has, I call it suffering. It was hard learning, but it shaped who I am today, because I got to be exposed to accounting and managerial accounting, HR, the soft skills too.
So you mentioned some of the decision that you had to make to go back to school was because of the economy, kind of what was going on at the time. What were some of the other factors that went into you deciding like, hey, I'm going to get my MBA?
I just thought that education and more learning and a different perspective is kind of from my background. Again, I was like, if I add this to my skill set, I'm more valuable potentially. And so I wanted to do it from that sense. And one of the things the MBA really taught me too was that I didn't know about getting into it was group work. They had a cohort, 4 people work together on every assignment, all the case studies. And, it was painful while we're going through it. It was like, oh, now I have to work with this group and get this done. Mm-hmm. But afterwards, you learn negotiations, you learn, to divide things up, as a team. If you take certain things you're stronger at, right? It was leadership skills. That's what they were trying to teach you. But as a young person at the time, I was like, what is this? This is too hard. So